Welcome to Capital Catch-Up, the podcast that translates congressional action into plain language insight. I'm Victor.
And I'm Lenny. Today we're walking through a slate of House legislation that just hit the floor. We'll unpack what each bill does, how it moves through the legislative process, and why it matters to everyday Americans.
Let's start with the Red Tape Act, House Resolution 6398. The title signals an effort to cut regulatory burdens. Historically, red tape reforms have been introduced to streamline agency procedures. Think the 1995 Regulatory Reform Act. If this measure passes, it could require agencies to review existing rules for unnecessary complexity, potentially speeding up approvals for businesses and reducing compliance costs for small firms.
Right, Victor. The procedural path for a House resolution begins with referral to a relevant committee, likely the Judiciary or Oversight Committee, for a regulatory reform bill. The committee can hold hearings, amend the text, and then vote to report it to the full House. If the House adopts it, the Senate would need to pass a companion measure before it can become law.
Next up is the FIRE Act, House Resolution 6387. FIRE stands for First Responder Incentives and Reimbursement, though the title alone tells us it's aimed at supporting emergency responders. Historically, legislation like the 2006 Public Safety Officers Benefits Act has provided funding for first responder health and training. This bill could create a new funding stream or adjust existing reimbursements, which would directly affect local fire departments and EMS agencies that often operate on tight budgets.
And the legislative journey is similar. Referral to the Homeland Security Committee or the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, where experts from fire districts might testify about funding gaps. If the committee reports it favorably, the House could vote it up, and the Senate would need to craft a matching version.
Moving on, House Resolution 8242 seeks to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to extend the health coverage tax credit. The credit was originally created in 2009 to help certain low-income workers afford health insurance. Extending it would keep that tax benefit alive for another year, which could mean lower tax bills for qualifying families and potentially higher enrollment in marketplace plans.
Extending a tax credit requires a change to the Internal Revenue Code, so the Ways and Means Committee would take the lead. They'd likely hold a markup session, possibly inviting the Treasury and health policy experts to discuss the credit's impact on enrollment numbers and federal revenue. If the House passes the amendment, the Senate would need to approve a companion bill before the President signs it into law.
House Resolution 8223 directs the Secretary of Homeland Security to reimburse state and local first responder agencies for costs incurred while responding to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, or Customs and Border Protection, CBP, activities. This is a direct financial relief measure. Historically, the 1996 Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act placed some cost-sharing responsibilities on local jurisdictions. But this bill would reverse that by providing federal reimbursement.
The bill would likely be referred to the Homeland Security Committee. If passed, it could ease budget pressures on local police and fire departments that have been called to assist with immigration enforcement, freeing up resources for community policing and emergency response.
House Resolution 8241 tackles the growing electricity demand of data centers. It proposes creating "to data center load queues" and data center-specific rate classes to mitigate impacts on other electricity consumers. As data centers proliferate, they constrain local grids, leading to higher rates for residential customers. By segmenting load and pricing, the bill aims to protect ordinary households from those spikes.
This would go to the Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees utility regulation. The committee might hear from utility companies, data center operators, and consumer advocacy groups. If enacted, the bill could lead to more transparent billing and potentially incentivize data centers to locate in areas with abundant renewable energy.
The Next Gen Road Safety Act, House Resolution 8217, is next. While the title is broad, Next Gen suggests incorporating newer technologies, perhaps advanced driver assist systems or smart infrastructure sensors, into road safety standards. Historically, the 1991 Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act, ISTEA, funded innovative safety projects, and this could be a modern continuation.
The Transportation and Infrastructure Committee would handle it. If the bill moves forward, we could see federal grants for states to deploy connected vehicle technology, which could reduce accidents and save lives on everyday roadways.
House Resolution 8226 focuses on turbine-powered helicopters that carry 2 or more passengers for compensation or hire. It would set safety equipment, training, and maintenance requirements. This mirrors past aviation safety legislation, such as the 1990 Aviation Safety and Noise Abatement Act, which tightened standards after a series of accidents.
The House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, specifically its Aviation Subcommittee, would likely review this. By establishing stricter safety protocols, the bill could lower accident rates for charter services, benefiting both passengers and pilots.
House Resolution 8244 requires the Secretary of Defense to submit an annual report on Department of Defense proficiency flights in the National Capital Region. Proficiency flights are training missions that sometimes raise concerns about noise and safety near civilian areas. A mandated report would increase transparency and allow Congress to assess any community impact.
This would be referred to the Armed Services Committee. The annual report could become a tool for oversight, enabling the committee to recommend adjustments if flights are disruptive to nearby neighborhoods.
House Resolution 8227 directs the Treasury to mint commemorative coins honoring Paul Laurence Dunbar, the celebrated African-American poet. While symbolic, commemorative coins can raise public awareness and generate revenue for the Treasury's coin program.
The Financial Services Committee would handle this. If passed, the Treasury would design and issue the coins, and collectors nationwide could purchase them, supporting both cultural recognition and a modest funding source for the Treasury.
Turning to House Joint Resolution 155, this is a congressional disapproval of a Department of Education rule concerning the William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program. A joint resolution is the formal mechanism Congress uses to overturn an executive agency rule under the Congressional Review Act. If the House and Senate both pass it and the President signs, the rule is nullified.
The Education and Labor Committee would review the rule, possibly holding hearings with student loan borrowers and education policy experts. Disapproval would revert the program to its prior regulatory state, affecting borrowers who rely on federal loan terms.
The Tech Diplomacy Training Act, House Resolution 8212, aims to boost the technical expertise of U.S. diplomats. In an era where cybersecurity, AI, and digital trade dominate foreign policy, training diplomats in tech matters could enhance negotiations and protect national interests.
The Foreign Affairs Committee would likely shepherd this bill. If enacted, the State Department could develop curricula, perhaps in partnership with tech firms or universities, ensuring diplomats can engage on issues like data privacy and emerging technologies.
House Resolution 8224 would require the President to define veteran success and develop a national veteran strategy. Historically, the 2018 VA Mission Act sought to improve veteran health care. This bill builds on that by mandating a strategic framework that could address employment, education, and health outcomes.
The Veterans Affairs Committee would take the lead. A clear definition of success could shape future funding allocations and program evaluations, directly impacting veterans seeking benefits and services.
House Resolution 8232 proposes to repeal certain employee protective arrangements in Title 49. While the title doesn't specify which protections, repeal could affect labor standards for transportation workers, potentially altering overtime rules or safety provisions.
The Transportation and Infrastructure Committee would examine the bill, likely consulting labor unions and industry groups. Any change could shift the balance between employer flexibility and worker protections.
House Resolution 8230 removes transit-oriented development (TRAD) projects from eligibility under the Transportation Infrastructure Finance and Innovation (TIFIA) program and the Railroad Rehabilitation Financing Program. TOD projects integrate housing, retail, and transit to encourage ridership. Excluding them could reduce federal financing for such mixed-use developments.
Again, the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee would handle this. Stakeholders, city planners, developers, and transit agencies would likely testify about the impact on sustainable urban growth.
Finally, the Defending Women in the Workplace Act, House Resolution 8213, seeks to address workplace discrimination against women. Historically, the 1963 Equal Pay Act and the 1964 Civil Rights Act laid the groundwork. This bill could introduce new enforcement mechanisms or expand protections.
The Judiciary Committee would review it, possibly holding hearings with advocacy groups and business leaders. If passed, the bill could strengthen reporting requirements for employers and provide additional avenues for victims to seek redress.
That covers the full slate. To recap the legislative process, a bill is introduced, referred to a committee, possibly amended, then reported to the full chamber for debate and vote. If both the House and Senate pass identical versions, it goes to the President for signature or veto. Joint resolutions, like the one on the education rule, follow the same path but are used for specific actions, such as disapproval of agency rules.
And for listeners, keep an eye on a few key items. The Red Tape Act and the FIRE Act could directly affect business costs and local emergency budgets. The health coverage tax credit extension is a tangible tax benefit for many families. The data center rate class proposal may influence your electricity bill if you live near a large data hub. And the Defending Women in the Workplace Act could reshape workplace rights for millions.
We'll be watching committee markups and floor votes in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for updates on these measures.
Thanks for joining us on Capital Catch-Up. Until next time, stay informed and engaged.